Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of Empire Sports Talk. I'm John Downey. I hope everyone out there is doing well and enjoying life because that's what it's all about. Let's get into it today. We're going to speak with Chris Carrino, who has a number of different roles, but is most notably known for his role with the Nets, play-by-play radio announcer. Tune in as Chris talks about his journey with FSHD, a muscle condition that he's had since college, working for a hometown team, also working in the NFL, and much more. Don't forget to listen to Chris Carrino give his insightful thoughts, as well as just living in New York and in the tri-state area his entire life.
I think it's really important to have mentors and have people that guide you along. I was in a position to be in a room with Marty Glickman. Not everybody gets that opportunity. This is the guy who invented basketball play-by-play on the radio. So I would be a fool not to sit there and soak everything up and not realize that I don't know what I'm doing. I have to listen to him. But all the broadcasters you admire, all the guys that you want to emulate, they're all on the air. They're out there for you to hear it. So if you don't have them in person, you have them on the radio, you have them on TV, listen to them. Try to break down what it is. It's like, you get a dish in a restaurant, you can go home and play with the spices and figure out how they made it. Um, so yeah, I think it is important. I mean, I have a son at Fordham. And he wants to do what I do, and he doesn't have Marty Glickman, but he has me, and we attack everything the way Marty Glickman did with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I try to mentor as many, anybody that contacts me. I mean, you contacted me and asked me, and I said, sure, I'll talk to you. I mean, I'm glad to kind of pay it forward. I feel like play-by-play is an art form. It's a passion of mine and I love it. So I'm willing to share my ideas with everybody else. Uh, but the thing about, I learned from Marty Glickman, who was doing it in the 50s and the 60s, or, when not everybody had TVs, he was doing radio. There was a different way of doing it back then. The world is different now. So you have to put your own spin on it. Um, you have to be your own unique individual, but also understand what the audience is after. And yeah, so I think it's important to listen to those things, but then also give it your own spin as well.
Right. So we can get into some of the Nets talk for now. So I know you've had a great career with them, like for over 20 years now. What is like your favorite moment? Because I know you called the first game in Brooklyn from when they moved to Jersey. That's probably up there, but I don't want to assume what your favorite moment is. So what do you think it is?
Yeah, my first year as the full-time play-by-play voice, and I've been a part of the organization since 1992 as a studio producer. And then I went to work full-time with the team in 97 as manager of broadcasting. And then in 2001, I took over as the play-by-play announcer. I had been doing it for about 3 years prior to that, and had been wanting to do it since 1992. But uh, the 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 there's so many. I mean, the first 2 years I called games as the voice of the team. We went to the NBA Finals, and I would see. I remember there a long time PR guy for the NBA, talking to him prior to during the finals the first year, and he said to me, Chris, you got to remember that there are guys who are in this business 30, 40 years, never get to call these kind of games. So don't take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought about that. And then, we go back to the finals the next year, and I see him and I go, hey, I'm still not taking it for granted. But then you don't get back there. I mean, I haven't been back to the NBA finals since, and that was over, 20 years ago. Um, but I think the finals, those two finals were incredibly memorable. Uh, Probably the most memorable game was my first year, was the first round playoff series against the Indiana Pacers. Nets were the number one seed, had come out of nowhere to win 56 games that year. They got Jason Kidd that year, and they were the number one seed, but nobody really believed it because it was such a jump from 26 wins the year before to 52 wins. Nobody gave us any credit. Everybody said,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, they get to the playoffs, they'll turn back into Cinderella, whatever." And it was a decisive five-game series against Indiana. They were the eighth seed, but they had been injured a lot during the year, so they got healthy and they were playing well late in the year. And they had a team with like Reggie Miller and Jermaine O'Neal and Jamal Tinsley and Rick Smiths, and it was a team that was much better than your typical 8 seed. And they
Hmm.
took us to a fifth game, and it was, Reggie Miller ties it to send it to overtime. Reggie Miller ties it again to send it to double overtime. Um, and it was incredible that they were in double overtime in a game five in the Meadowlands, but they ended up winning the game, and that set the tone now for two straight finals appearances. I don't know if that happens if they don't win that game. And the way you view the Nets is different because they've been to the finals. They have that credibility, all right? They've got two Eastern Conference championship banners hanging in the rafters. That's what's different between them and other, teams that share a city like the Clippers. Like it all started with that one game. And yeah, the first game in Brooklyn was special. We didn't know how it was going to go in Brooklyn. It's turned out to be a massive success as far as the building and the fans. But it was muted a little bit because the first game was supposed to be against the Knicks, and Hurricane Sandy hit that week, and the game was postponed, and it ended up being a game against the Toronto Raptors, which they won. But it was muted a little bit, and you had that whole
Hmm.
everything was going on with Sandy at the time. So, um, but yeah, I've been fortunate to be sitting in that seat for a long, long time.
Right, that was a lot there. That was very, very good. I appreciate that. So I know you do national games, and then of course you do the Nets games, so it's kind of like a local aspect. Like, what different approaches do you take to when you're calling like an NFL game that maybe I'm sure obviously of course you do like your research and everything that everyone does, but like the Nets you're with every day. So like what different approaches do you take to that?
I think it's just knowing your audience. I think Marty Glickman's mantra to us was consider the listener, right? So when I'm on the air as the voice of the Nets, I know that predominantly my audience are Net fans.
Mhm.
And it's not that I'm a homer. I mean, I tell it like it is. I've always said, Net fans and New York fans and sports fans are smart. I can't tell you that the sun is shining when it's raining, but I try to have that credibility. So when I tell you that, you know, this is happening, you believe me. And so I'm not a homer. I'm not over the top. I'm not openly rooting, but my audience could tell that I'm behind the Nets in a way that I'm going to get more emotional the way they're going to be emotional. I'm going to be professional about it. I'm not going to be yelling about the officiating. I'm not going to be saying we. Um, but I am doing it from a slant of I know you people are listening out there, you want to know what's going on with the Nets. Um, and a lot of my research and a lot of what we're going to discuss on the air will be coming at the game from a Nets angle. And we'll give you enough about the other team to to just let you know what the Nets are up against. When I do a game for Compass Media Networks and it's an NFL game, I don't it's right down the middle. And I'm going to try and give you as much information about both teams. And I'm going to get really excited when each team does something. Same thing when I do the NCAA tournament for Westwood One. I'm going to deliver it from a point of view of neutrality. And I'm going to get excited for both teams. And I don't want you to walk away. If you're rooting for one team, I don't want you to think I'm rooting for your team over the other. I want to get equally, I want to give you the excitement of both sides. And I think that's the main difference between doing a national game and doing a local game.
Okay, that was pretty good as well. So I know like living like you don't live right now, you don't live like in New York, but you live close enough, so it's like the tri-state area. I know for me that's what I would like to do, live like outside of New York but work in the city. Like what's the challenges of travel? Because I know that's a big thing as well, and always making sure you have like time management skills because you don't want to ever be late to anything, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's you get there hours before the game. Um, and that's a time where you're talking to people, you're getting some information, you're soaking in the atmosphere. So the more of that, the better. And you don't want to have that pressure of getting there for, right at your broadcast time, obviously. And it is a challenge living in this area. It's sometimes I question it all the time about um, the commute. I do travel a lot, so it's almost as important for me to be as close to Newark Airport as it is to be as close to Barclays Center because I'm at Newark Airport almost as much as I'm at Barclays Center. So it's easy for where I live, it's easy for me to get there. I mean, listen, first and foremost, John, is you'll understand this as you get older and you have a family and you have children. That's the most important thing. So being in an area where your family is comfortable, where you feel good about raising your children, that's the most important thing. That's number one in your life. And you
Hmm.
have to balance that with your professional and your job. And you're away from your family a lot. Um, so if you can be closer to home, closer to your job, then well, you spend more time at home. If you're a little further away, but it's good for your family, well, that's something that you're giving them, and you have to just deal with the commute. We thought, first we were living in New Jersey, a lot of us that work for the Nets, and I'm fortunate. I don't have to be in the office every day. If I had to be in the office every day, it'd be a different story. But I'm just going in for games. So it's not as terrible. But yeah, it is. But I try to utilize the time in the car to listen to podcasts that I wouldn't, I have a chance to do that. Coming home, I actually enjoy the ride home because it's a chance for me to kind of unwind. You're
Hmm.
coming out of a building where there's 18,000 people screaming and yelling, and you're screaming and yelling, and it takes a little while to come down from that. I can't just, I wouldn't be able to just walk out and walk across the street and go to bed. So that hour or so ride, hour ride I have home, put on a little music or I'm listening to a podcast. I'm just kind of unwinding. And then when I get home, I'm kind of relaxed and I can go to bed. But that's how you deal with it. And there's a lot of time on airplanes, a lot of time on airplanes, and I'm able to do work. I'm able to open up my laptop and go through media guides and make my notes on players and notes on the game and work ahead. Your time management a lot of times is all right. I know that, for instance, I make a chart on every team that we call, right? We do.
Hmm.
It's got individual notes on the players. It's got their stats. It's got their most recent games, things like that. I'll spend an hour or two on that chart for every team, for every
Hmm.
game. So you have to work ahead, knowing, all right, I have some things coming up, but we have Chicago coming up on Friday. We have Detroit on Sunday. We have Memphis on Monday. If I have some free time, or I know I'm going to be on a plane, let me download the stuff I need so I can make my notes, and I can work for a couple of hours on a flight to Memphis where I can get my Grizzly stuff done. I can get my Bull stuff done for Friday, knowing that I also have a Jacksonville Jaguar, Philadelphia Eagle game coming up on Sunday. So I'll have a day off on Thursday where I can work on the Jaguars. That's a football chart. That takes me a good 3, 4 hours to do. But I'll have some time in the afternoon to work on that. I've already seen the Eagles a couple of times, so that saves me about 3 hours of work. But all these things have to be planned out. And I know it sounds tiring, but the process is the job, and you have to enjoy the process as much as you enjoy the actual work.
Right. I have a few more questions here for you, and then I'll let you go. So I know you have the Chris Carrino Foundation for your condition that you have. So can you talk about how you work with that? Because I know that could be another challenge as well, like dealing with all that stuff that comes with that. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, so I have a thing called FSHD, which is a type of muscular dystrophy. I was diagnosed in my early 20s. And I knew one thing. I knew it was going to rob me of a lot of things in life as it progressed, but I wasn't going to let it stop me from doing what I wanted to do. In it, I've had mobility challenges for a while. Uh, in Since 2019, though, I've been using a mobility device, a power wheelchair or a scooter, and that has complicated uh, the job a little bit because the logistics of travel have become an issue and become difficult. But you find a way with the help of others to get where you need to be. I've had to work with the leagues about accessibility to the broadcast locations. I've had to work with the teams about getting on the team plane. Um, COVID showed us that we could work remotely in a lot of fields. Um, we did the road games remotely during COVID, and that has kind of spilled over now where because of some of the challenges of travel for me, I've been afforded the opportunity to do some games remotely. Now, I was given the chance to do all the games that we, instead of traveling, do remotely, but that's not the way I want to do the job. Part of the job is
Hmm.
being in the arena and being with the team. So to save some wear and tear, we do some games remotely, but the majority of the games I'm still traveling to. NFL, I have to be there. And I have my neighbor comes with me to help me out. And he's a big football fan, loves coming to the games, loves traveling around the country with me. And he actually comes in and is there, and I can't do it without him. I need his help. So that has complicated things a little bit. Uh, but I think what you learn in your life is that the more you want something, the the more you'll go through to get it.
Right.
I have a gift. I love it. I want to do it. I want to take advantage of it. And I'm going to go through whatever I have to do that. And it's harder for me to do things. And it's harder, I've got to compete against healthy bodied individuals who don't have those issues. I have
Hmm.
so many more things logistically that I have to work out that weigh on my mind, that give me anxiety and stress that most people don't have to deal with. Just the simple things in life, like getting out of bed and getting dressed, are challenges for me. Doing a game is easy. All the other stuff is hard for me, but you do it because you love it. And as far as the foundation goes, I was diagnosed in my early 20s. I didn't really share what I was going through with a lot of people, even close family and friends. And my wife challenged me in 2010, around 2010, 2011, that you can't keep burying your head in the sand. You need help from other people. You can't just leave us alone in this. And in 2011, I knew there was nothing I could be done medically for me, but I felt, well, maybe I can get involved where I can help change that. And also, maybe I can be involved to help other people with this disease and other people going through similar type situations by telling my story. So we started the foundation because I wanted to have a mechanism in place. When I started telling my story, I wanted to have a way to help people. And we started the foundation, and we've raised millions of dollars, and we've given it away to charity, to research and grants and things to help people with this disease. And I just keep going out there and telling my story. And I know it's helped people, and it's definitely helped me because being open and honest about what I go through has helped me be more of who I am and be more comfortable in my own skin. And uh, it's just, relaxed me even when I'm out and about in stadiums and arenas. I always thought using a power wheelchair mobility device would be the end for me. It's the thing I feared the most when I got diagnosed. But what I realized is that the worst time in my life was right before I was using it because I knew I needed it. I was avoiding things that I love doing. But now that I'm using one, I'm much more comfortable in those situations and free to be myself. And I've gotten used to the emotional challenges of it, and I'm a better person for it.
That was really good. It just, that's impressive. Just how you like just power through that and don't let it affect you. Going back though to you were talking about like doing games remotely. I know that that could be another like way. Like, how do you like figure out how to do that from like wherever you're like from home or like if you're in the office? Like, how is that? Obviously, it's different, but like, how is that different than doing it in person?
Well, I go into a studio at the NBA offices in Secaucus, and we have the sound from the arena, and it's coming through. And it's in my headset, so it sounds like we're there. I don't think
Hmm.
you'd be able to tell if you were listening, to be honest. I know a lot of people are fooled. Even people in the business say to me, how was Indiana? I was not there. Well, it sounded, oh my God, it sounded like you were there. Basketball is a little easier because you can see all 10 guys on the floor. There are a few challenges when they cut away from things. The thing about being in the stadium is in the arena in the stadium is that you can look wherever you want to look. So, I mean, for instance, I did a game remotely from the Nets and the Grizzlies, and there was a whistle, and I can hear it. And I know there's a whistle, but something happened behind the play, and it wasn't on camera. So I'm blind to that. I don't know what happened. I have to wait for a replay. Whereas if I'm there, I see it all. Um, I think in studio you have to pick up your energy a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
because you in the arena, your energy level comes up just from being in the crowd. When you're in studio, sometimes you may have to fake that a little bit. You have to artificially bring it up a little bit. That's why I like the crowd loud in my headset. So I feel like I'm there and I have to fight the crowd a little bit. Um, and, but I think sports that like baseball or football where you have to look in a lot of different places and when you're doing off monitor, you're at the mercy of that director who's showing you whatever he's showing you on the screen. That could be a little more of a challenge. Having multi views would help. I know a lot of the baseball guys who did remotely during COVID had different camera angles they could look at because you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
look at a ball hit down the line in the corner, and then you're also trying to look and see where the runner is, and there's going to be a play at the plate, so there's multiple places you can be looking. Um, but those are the challenges. The other part of it is, before a game, you're in the arena, you're in the stadium, you're talking to other broadcasters, you're talking to players, you're talking to coaches, you're getting a little bit of a feel for what's going on. You don't get that when you're there. So, um, yeah, those are the main challenges. But the actual play-by-play is play-by-play, and you do it, you know, the same way.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is the last question I got for you that I like to end every interview off with. What like specific piece of advice would you give to someone like me who's aspiring to be in your shoes, and like just starting out too? Like, because I know I'm a little nervous, like not like asking people for like advice, but more so like getting them to like help me out. It's like, what's that piece of advice that you would give to make sure like no one has those nerves?
There's a lot of things, and I get asked that question all the time, and you would think I have some kind of stock answer. Um, but I don't because everybody's path is going to be different, and there's more than one road to success. Um, your path might be different depending on what college you attend, what city you live in. Um, I do say this as far as the anxiety. Listen, you reached out to me, and I said, sure, I'll talk to you. If there's someone you admire, reach out to them, not in a sense of see, here's the other thing. I don't like when it's like you can't reach out to me and ask me for a job. I don't have a job for you. I don't. Maybe I might know about something. I don't know, but I don't have that. But what I'm willing to do with you is share my knowledge, share how you can do the job. Um, and I think most people are willing to do that if they have the time. Um, and I think if you come at it from that angle, hey, I'm an aspiring broadcaster, I'm an aspiring writer, I'm an aspiring singer, whatever it is. I would love to just pick your brain. I would love to learn more about you and your background. I think that's completely fine.
Hmm.
And if you establish a relationship with that person, then you say, hey, would it be okay if I sent you a clip for you to critique? That person may even offer that to you. That's important, right? Because it's how the jobs that are available, how you get them. Sometimes that's not under your control or under the control of the person you're speaking to. But developing your craft is under your control. And I always tell kids, especially you're coming out of college, you're waiting to get that big opportunity, and you're not working. Well, while you're not working, you could still be productive by working on your craft, so that when you do get an opportunity, you're ready to do it. You know, I also think it's important for you to be realistic with your talent and your level of commitment. I once had my wife was a work for a law firm when I was just starting out. I was just getting underway with my career, and I would go to a Christmas party, and a lawyer would come up to me and say, "Hey, I would give up my whole law career to do what you do." And I said, "No, you wouldn't, because you don't. These jobs aren't advertised in the New York Times. If I lose my job or I don't like my position, I can't go down the block to six other law firms and get a job. Um, you don't know what I had to go through to get here and how lucky I am to get where I am. I don't think you would trade that for anything, you know. And so I think you have to be understood that in this job it takes talent. Some of it is just natural. Some of it you can work on and get better, obviously. It takes passion because only the most passionate are going to do the work that's involved in getting better and doing the job properly. And it also takes commitment because you're going to hear no a lot and you're going to have to work really hard and you're going to have to do all the things to try and put yourself in a position to be lucky and get the job that you love. So are you going to give up your weekends, give up your holidays, work for nothing because doing this is all you wanted to ever do? So do you have the talent to do it? Do you have the passion to do it well and to put in the work? And do you have the commitment to stay with it? That's what it all comes down to.
Okay, this was really awesome. I appreciate it. Good luck with your future calls. I'll tune into some. I'm not a Nets fan, but I'll tune into some games on the radio to listen, give you a listen. Thank you. I
Sure.
really appreciate this.
All right, John. Thanks. And
All
good
right.
luck to you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Empire Sports Talk. I want to thank Chris Carrino for taking some time out of his day to join the program. And I'm John Danny. Stay safe and make sure to tune into the next episode.